This is The Art of Startup War, and I am your sensei, Brian McMahon. Now, in Season 1 and 2, I got inside the minds of startup investors. In Season 3, I brought in entrepreneurs to share their startup journey. Here, in Season 4, we combine both, so you can hear investors critique the investment value proposition of individual companies. You're going to hear how investors make decisions to invest in startups, what makes a great entrepreneur, and how billion-dollar companies are built. So tune in every Tuesday, 10 a.m. on all the major platforms. You can empower your tribe by sharing the podcast, and remember to subscribe, rate, review, and leave us a comment. Good morning, it's Tuesday, it's 10 o'clock. I am here in the fridge with the one, the only, the Jenny Chang. Yay! Jenny's in the house.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Welcome. Jenny is my buddy. She's also an amazing entrepreneur. She has a phenomenal tech business, which we're going to talk about. But there's so many layers of Jenny that you got to understand before you get to the tech business. And first time we met was when you did the event here, right?
Correct. The Shipsomnia.
You did a Shipsomnia event, which was the most incredible event I have ever seen. You draped this place like crazy. You created these projector moments where it felt like you were in another planet. It was like nothing I've. You turned our shitty place into like the most beautiful, amazing, glamorous club for one evening. And then you broke my heart because you took that down, you took it with you, and you left my place the way it was before.
Oh my God.
Everybody meet the most incredible. Now, we're not going to talk about events today, but I do want you to know that there is no better event producer anywhere in LA than Jenny.
Thank you so much.
Am I wrong?
Brian.
Am I wrong, though?
I mean...
No. And you know it. No, I'm not.
Oh, Brian, thank you. I really appreciate that. No, I remember the first event where we met, and it was so funny because when I walked in, there was just like, there was, shit everywhere. Not just, not from the venue, but like just in regards to like the props and all the rentals and whatnot. And I just remember seeing you throughout the entire morning and just feeling your energy, and you were just so like fascinated with the process.
No, because I'm watching you. You're like Sergeant Major said, okay, you move that stuff over there. You, okay, follow her. Go with him. Okay, that's it. Down here. I'm like watching it going, damn, I gotta know this lady. Yeah. And it happened, and it came together, and you pulled together what seemed impossible in the morning into the most incredible, beautiful event by the time we got to the evening, which was amazing for the folks over in Shipsomnia who we were eternally grateful for. And so you do loads of events like this. You're known principally for three things. One, being awesome, right? Two, being one of the top event companies in LA. Three, being one of the top specialist marriage companies in LA. So if somebody's looking to get married, you will take very few companies and you will bring them in, and then they will get the absolute special treatment, and you'll arrange their special day for them, right? So very high end, extremely high touch, and folks who want it to be unbelievably special get the Jenny touch. Yeah.
No, you're absolutely correct. I think you couldn't have said that better. So I would say that I specialize in experiences.
Right.
So they call me the magnet of experiences. I guess that's what I attract in the people that really want to have this groundbreaking, moment. I think, there's hundreds of, thousands of creative event planners out there. And I wouldn't say that I'm the most creative per se, but as a director, I would say that I really focus on bringing an experience to life. Whether that's luxury weddings, right? Really getting to know the couple, learning who they were before they even met, who were they independently, who did they become interdependently, instead of focusing on these like trends and things that really happen, in the wedding process or event planning process, we really focus on bringing that personality of the couple to life.
You make it theirs. You make the day. You make the day theirs, rather than just giving them some trendy thing that just happened last week.
Exactly. Because essentially when we're talking about, bringing an event to life and it's all revolved around love, I want their family and friends to arrive and be like, oh my God, this is so Jane and Joe, Joe, right? And
Yeah.
like, I want everyone to experience the memories that come with the process. Everyone will remember like, centerpieces, but not really. Everyone feels the experience. So
Right.
whether it's luxury weddings, whether it's bringing a brand to life, whether it's starting an investment meeting with a room full of investors, it's just the mission is to bring to life the ultimate purpose of that event.
And
So
make them feel.
exactly. And just make them feel, creating that vibration ultimately, so that every time they remember back to it, it's almost as if they're there again.
Talk to me about one of the most incredible events you've ever arranged.
Well, I've done, I would say on a physical level in terms of, really bringing something, the impossible to life. I'd say one of my most favorite it was a very presidential wedding. It was in San Francisco. And we built basically the Ritz-Carlton Hotel on a parking lot. It was insane,
Wow.
Brian. I was there from 4 a.m. to, ensure all like rental
You
companies.
built it.
I built it from ground up. And I mean, like, it was on a Saturday. It
Are
was
we
a
talking like
public
chandeliers
space.
and
Everything, flooring. I mean, the number one thing was just making sure that like there was a floor that was not the parking lot gravel. Making sure that, we built this entire tent structure that, carried all like, thousands of lights, ensuring that, it was crazy. I was there from 4 a.m. to 2 a.m. and it was nonstop production. And I remember the dad, he's a CEO of a huge company, but essentially I remember him wanting to spend another 50,000 just so that we could have the security of building this on a Friday and then going into a Saturday. And I remember it was a week before the wedding and I was just like, listen, like, you just have to let me do my thing. You have to just trust me. This is why your daughter hired, the best of the best. And you just have to trust that. It doesn't matter. I'm not going to have you spend 50,000 just for us to like build this structure just the night before. I mean,
yeah.
it's gonna go up at 4 a.m. and it's gonna come down at 2 a.m. And that's the plan. And it was insane, Brian. I mean, it was at the Gallery 308. The internal, the building inside of Gallery 308 was just one huge reception club where parallel to the venue space right outside was just this huge structure of a building that we basically like built from ground up, literally. And that was where the very presidential dinner and whatnot was.
Incredible.
Mm-hmm.
What is your greatest superpower
As an event planner?
as a person and as an event planner?
Okay, so the first thing that comes to mind, I think my greatest superpower is being a serial problem solver. Like legitimately, I think, we see it in business all the time, right? Having to solve problems. But on top of having a business, it's, being a director of these events that are naturally expected to have problems. And I think a lot of people focus on having a problem on the day of. They're like, oh, what if the photographer doesn't show up? Or what if the ceiling and, starts coming down? Or what if the cake falls? And they start focusing on these things that have happened to other people in the past. But they forget that there are problems that rise in all the months leading to that day, right? So there's two parts of my world. There's the day or the weekend, and then there's the journey. And the journey is what I would say is that whole process that we're all born to, at least we should be born to enjoy the process so that the outcome is successful in anything we do. And I've really learned that as, being an event specialist, I've learned that it's, listen, problems on the day of are going to happen. That is inevitable. And I'll never, ever, ever, mask the truth of that. But the good news is, I work with a strong team. I work with a collective, a unit. Even if problems happen on the day of, no one knows about it.
So I would have said your superpower, obviously a great problem solver, but I would have said your superpower is your planning. Because having seen you here, and also with that event, to be able to logistically make sure an event which goes from 2 a.m. or whatever crazy time, like 4 in the morning till 2 in the morning, which is 22 hours. Like to make sure that that is ready at 2 in the morning, you have to have supreme planning powers. Like you have to. You also have to have really strong logistical and process powers.
Yeah.
So I would say, yeah, you fix planning stuff. I watched you here as you were getting everybody, you're pulling them all together. But really, there's small stuff. Because if the big stuff is not pre-planned, you can't fix it. There's no stuff you can fix.
See, and I agree with you. And I think a lot of people think that. I think a lot of people, when they think of event planners or, wedding planners, they're like, oh, well, they have to be masters of planning, right? But in all the years that I've been in business and all of the experiences that I've gone through on my own, I realized that it doesn't matter how much of a plan you have. Right. I mean, of course, there's got to be, the skeleton of the event. There's got to be the skin of, the whole process. I mean, it's all got to come together before it all comes together. However, it's the same thing I always teach my team. I say, you know what, guys, at the end of the day, when we're there and we're live, it's about 60 to 70% the plan, and about 30 and 40% of just improvising.
Yeah.
And it's that space you leave for creativity that allows you to really create something magnificent and something that can't be compared because, plans are sometimes meant to be broken. And I've planned, Brian, I've been in situations where I've planned a wedding for 2 weeks. They called me. They were like, hey, I want my wedding in 2 weeks. And I had it all planned to the T by the first week. It was done. And then all of a sudden, boom, nature hits. Napa Valley fire happens. It burned down the entire state the week before the wedding. And so sometimes I always say, when we try to make the plan so perfect, we go crazy. And we don't actually allow ourselves as event specialists and directors to, plan I'm not plan per se, but
you know what?
You know what I mean?
I'm with you entirely. Actually, as you're speaking, I'm thinking to myself, man, I wish every startup could be an event planner so they can go through that entire execution, learn, adapt, execution.
You know what?
Because that's what you're saying,
Yep.
right? You just do
absolutely.
it. You're watching, you're looking for the problems, you're adapting based on the problems, and then you're executing again.
Exactly.
And then you rinse and repeat all day long.
Exactly.
And that's the key to startup.
Yeah.
Like we do that
That's
properly.
true.
We start with the execution and we do that properly all the way through. Our businesses are successful.
That's very
But
true.
when we spend all of our time planning and just being creative
Yep.
and imagining what it's like, we never make it to the place that we need to make it to.
No, you're so right. And I see that in so many other CEOs where, they want that vision to be so crisp to where they see it. And it gets to the point where it blocks them from actually launching. It blocks them from actually spending the time to just get it out there. When really, that 30 to 40%, you just have to improvise. You have to learn from that situation so that it carries on to the next event or the next launch or the next startup. And I agree with you. I think that's a really, really insightful thing to say because learning the process of event planning and seeing how an idea is manifested into this one-time experience is really the way that a startup is. It's very similar.
And I love how you've evolved it, right? So you start off and you have your mom and your pop, which is your event space and your experiential and your wedding. And then your little baby comes out, which is your little technology baby, right? And your little technology baby is Vowlá. And you decided, I love what I do and I
Correct.
will never stop doing that. However, there has to be an automated, process-driven supply chain where I can provide this in a very simple way to all weddings,
Correct.
not just the 5-10 weddings a year, right?
Correct.
And so Vowlá was born. Like how I say that?
Yes.
Like how I say Vowlá in an Irish accent.
I love no, it's
like the Irish Vowlá. So Vowlá was born. So what made you do this? Because you have so much on your plate already. You got
Right.
2 amazing businesses, phenomenally successful, that you're intimately engaged in, and you decided to launch the most challenging and time-consuming thing you can possibly do, which is a tech business.
Yeah, and thank you for that, Brian. I'd say, no, you're absolutely right. I think So when I started Vowlá, I realized that I started it with this one intention. I basically just wanted to share what I did for couples, what I was able to provide couples that could afford my services. I wanted to share that with every couple in the world. And there was a very discouraging, you know, I would say there's this thing called the hero's journey. And I think
Yeah.
every entrepreneur has their own version of the hero's journey. And mine was, in 2017, I had found a tremendous amount of qualms in my industry. For one, I saw that couples, no matter how much they loved me or the process, they couldn't afford me. Majority of them just couldn't. And when you have a service or you have a product that you want someone to so badly benefit from, you don't stop at, they're not the right one. You start to find this part of you that wants to generate something where people can. And so I saw that being one of my biggest motivations. The second motivation was seeing how much business I lost when it came to what everyone needed most, which was the month of service, or a service where a wedding planner gloriously shows up on the month of your wedding. She kind of collects all the data of all the hard work the bride and groom have, accomplished together, and she really brings that to life.
Yeah.
And, it's a service that, comparative to the full service and everything else out there, it's one of the most affordable services. However, it was becoming the most competitive to sell. And if I knew that if I was having a challenge selling the month of service, then other wedding planners were too. And the third big challenge that I found in the industry, and mind you, Brian, this was all happening within like a 3 to 4 month span, that I was really recognizing this. And I noticed that, there were all these photographers and videographers and vendors that we're constantly recommending. But yet they're competing against, we got professional vendors that are competing against amateur vendors. And
Yeah.
I'm very open to say that. I've come across wedding planners that give themselves the crown of being a wedding planner because they plan their own wedding. Listen, it's
Well, technically it's true.
I mean,
When they planned.
Yeah, true, but at the same time,
And they've got at least 2 clients.
right, exactly.
Them and
And
their
then
wife.
And then there's like photographers that are now, picking up a camera and, saying they're a wedding photographer,
Yeah.
which I think really I started to see a very competitive market with all the vendors that were looking to book.
And by the way, there's a problem here. And the problem is that you only get married kind of once.
Correct.
Right? So this is not like a business function. You get a photographer in, they don't do great photos. You're like, okay, dude, I'm going to do better ones the next time around. It's like, I just got married. My photos are my photos. I got nothing else. So you choose someone who just randomly calls themselves a wedding photographer because they can.
Right.
Or you get somebody to arrange it because they can. Well, it's done. Because it's not
Right.
like you can afford to do a set. Even if you want to do it again for the same person,
Exactly.
you can't afford to.
That's exactly
So this is a
it.
big issue.
It's a
And
big issue.
Were many people having unsatisfactory experiences?
So the good thing is they not in our firm, but I was seeing it in
No, I mean in general, like
Oh.
around the US.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And it's, business is getting tough for a market that, for one, will never stop. The wedding industry isn't, planning on going anywhere. But at the same time, it's interesting how, a lot of, the business aspect was just becoming a lot more competitive for vendors, including wedding planners. And so, and then couples were just not able to afford this very Jennifer Lopez experience that they dream of having by their side when they're planning the day of their, wedding or their wedding year. So I said, okay, well, being an event director, what's above that? So let's say that we wanted to, promote ourselves to the next level, ascend to another version of our career. You don't really go from a wedding planner to, an event rental company or a photographer, unless that's truly where your passion lies. But the next step for an event planner would be to either to own an asset. It would be to invest in a venue. It would be to rent out this venue so that there are other, couples that can, generate profit or revenue or whatnot. And that was definitely something that I had to consider. It was a consideration where, a lot of my events are private estates and they're all ground up events. So we're always building constructions. So I thought, well, why not buy like a $4 to $5 million home, kind of get all the licensing and permits that are necessary and flip it and turn it into a wedding venue and start renting it out. The problem with that is that I have commitment issues. For being in a wedding planner or a luxury wedding planner, I do have commitment issues. And the idea of just having one venue space that I was going to rent out to, couples and just make it look different as much as I could over and over and over again. And then, of course, financially, it didn't make sense either. And I said, okay, well, let's, rule that out. So then I thought, well, if staying in one location is an issue, what is another type of asset where you're a lot more mobile, where you can expand, where you can share your services to not just one venue space, one county, but the world. Yeah. And tech, building a technology, building an application was and is to me an asset. It is an asset. And it's something that I started really kind of pondering this concept where I said, okay, well, if tech is an asset, how do we expand, how do we give couples more of that exposure and availability to connect with the wedding planner? Well, and I guess the biggest question was, why were brides not being able to afford a month of wedding planner, even though that's the most competitive service to invest in? And I found out it's because more and more brides, the modern bride, is evolving into becoming a lot more of an independent bride, right? So when you're very independent and you want, if you don't, you can rule out the concept of having a JLo experience if you want to do this yourself. But if you're going to do this yourself, you want to do it the right way. Yeah. Right. So I said, well, when I first started my first startup, ROCKNEVENTS, 95% of my clients till this day are all destination clients. So I built a digital system that houses. So if you imagine, it's all built off Excel, but it's this perfect little space where each client has their own version of a Redbook system or journey system. And I built it with my fingertips, and I basically, each page has a very specific space where clients have an expectation of the next process. They have all their budget, calculated and expected. They have all of their guest lists in this, this digital master book. And I basically started thinking, well, this digital master book that I had, kind of handcrafted for the sake of my destination clients is something that I wanted to convert into an application, all while exposing my secret sauce, I would say, to how I personally guide my clients. So if you can't afford a wedding planner, then you might as well have a wedding planner's checklist
right
in the palm of your hand.
So that's what you're providing. So Vowlá gives them that checklist for them to be able to build it, but it also connects them with wedding planners as well.
Exactly. So the best part is, if you imagine, Brian, we have all these couples in the world that now have an application where it's not a standard checklist like, hey, go buy your bridesmaids dresses, or let's start, inquiring for your tux and ties. It's like, hey, no, let's sit down. Let's narrow down the top 7 wedding venues to consider. Let's look into hotel blocking. It's time to book your, get your event insurance, and it gives you resources on where to get your insurance. So it's basically everything, the model that I guide all my, tech mobile clients, right? That same model is in the app. So a modern independent bride
can get access to a couple of $100,000 wedding.
Exactly.
Just in the palm of her hand. And then she can choose the venues and everything that she wants.
Exactly.
And does she interact with you or with physical people, or is she interacting with the app and the app will guide her all the way through?
So the best part about Vowlá, and I would say the one that made it very special to me, is I wanted everyone to not just have the process, but I wanted everyone to be able to connect with the real life wedding planner. Um, and seeing that there was a gap, a hole in the industry for wedding planners to grow their business, I started to think, well, what if all of these wedding planners were all business owners? They were all independent contractors, right? And they're all business owners of their own right. And we're essentially a marketplace.
And you contract them. So they will.
Correct.
So you become a two-sided marketplace
Correct.
where they can connect. And have you built the app?
Exactly. Yes. Yes. The app is built.
And you did it yourself?
Yes.
You didn't raise any money?
No. It's all self-funded. So we're very
You
lucky.
are so independent.
Thank you. Thank you, Ryan.
Even though we begged you to take money from us before, you're so independent. Jenny's like, I don't need your money. I'm going to build greatness first, and then I'll come back.
Well, and I think, so it's, I would say that, the best part about the app, the intention is consistent. It started with an intention, and it continues to grow with a stronger intention. And we have this, we have the ability for users to connect with a real life wedding planner. So it's like Tinder. They boom, based on their criteria of where they're getting married, what the criteria is, they get matched to their perfect wedding planner. And they're able to chat instantly. But the greatest part is it's the same like Uber in the sense where, let's say that the user's wedding is a month away. All they have to do now is pay below the market price. So it's below the average of what a month of service is, so that it's a mobile, it's a lot easier to invest in. The average month of.
You're doing like telemedicine for a wedding planner.
Yeah.
Really, right? You're allowing them to, because part of the hassle for a wedding planner is the travel, is the going out there, is the spending the time in their place. So you're allowing them to do that from the comfort of their own home.
Right.
While at the same time, the person who's looking to have the wedding arranged wants a lower price, but they want access to exactly the same. Well done.
And it increases the frequency.
And is it fully launched?
It is.
You're amazing.
It's
and have you got
launched.
Customers?
We do. We have users right now.
Get the hell out of here.
I swear you're not. We have users right now.
You have not been sitting on your ass. You just went straight out there. You created, built, and then you drove users.
Exactly. And here's the best part, Brian. You're going to love this part. I would say, there's so many things that I could just like my heart is just like all over this app because I think it's amazing. It connects to Etsy, which is like the Amazon of the wedding details. But at the same time, when we talked earlier about that problem with the industry, with the competition from an amateur vendor to a professional vendor. So based on the user's criteria, the app will generate and recommend the best venues, photographers, videographers, DJs, everyone you can imagine to build your ultimate wedding team. It connects you to all the best people that meet your criteria. And all of those vendors are hand selected by my team and I.
You will get a commission based on those.
Correct. So the business model is that we take 10% from all the businesses, from every photographer in Northern and Southern California, but then of course expanding to the United States, soon enough. But imagine taking 10% of every vendor in the wedding industry.
Including the wedding organizer, the wedding planner.
We're not. We want to encourage our wedding planners to really make money off the app. So everything that the user's paying goes right into the wedding planners.
I do think in the future, just my thoughts, I do think they'll happily pay.
Oh, yeah.
And if you say to them, you would be almost tempted to say to them now, look, we're giving a 6-month moratorium of charges, but we're taking 10%. And it just gets them into the mindset that they're going to pay in the future.
Well, think
because
about it this
they
way.
should. And the funny thing about other providers is some folks will pay 15%, but but all that you can grow up to. Like for now, it's done amazing. It's great. So what are you going to raise? You got to raise money now because you got to blow up.
Exactly. So it's funny that you asked that because the company we have everyone that we need right now on the team. And we have a COO, we have, my biz dev, we have the 2 other companies that support leads and, other partners to be partnered with for the application. And then So we're just kind of at a standstill right now because we have company books, for God's sakes. We're so ready at Vowlá. The only thing we're missing is investment. And I've been going through the journey of raising capital for the last, I would say more full time, I'd say probably the last 3 months.
Yeah.
But I've just been learning so much. We're raising right now seed capital.
Yeah.
For about 500,000. And then later we're looking into raising Series A for about 2, maybe 3 million.
Yeah.
But what's really interesting is after that, Brian, we don't know if we even
If
need
you
a
need
series.
investment after that, you may not.
Exactly.
I actually think you will. I think you will go for a Series B, personally. I think you'll raise $20 or $30 million because the thing is, if you really want to expand this properly and you want to get a proper foothold, I think you'll probably need one more round. I think Honey in LA were such a great lesson for everyone. Sold for $4 billion. They raised $31 million. Once you raise $31 million, you now have millions of users. Once you've got millions of users, you move past. So in this year with your seed, you're going to get hundreds of users and you might build it to thousands. And then you're going to raise your 2 million. But 2 million, a lot of it will go on staff and on building the process and procedures around it. So that will allow you to build it up to maybe a couple of thousand, maybe. But that's still not enough to blow you through the roof.
Right.
And then you ask yourself the question, do I want to build a service business? Well, you've already built the 2 biggest and best service businesses you can do, which is the 2 businesses you already have.
Right.
This one here, this is your $1 billion business. So I'm predicting you will not have a choice. I'm predicting you are going to get a year and a half in the future and you're going to raise $20, $25 million.
Yeah.
And you're going to have a international wedding directional checklist planning marketplace whereby everybody everywhere is going to be able to get the highest level, because right now they can't. And I think your secret sauce is so much is the fact that you already do the greatest weddings on the planet. So actually just duplicating it in here is you're almost giving it away for free.
Right.
But at the same time, by doing that, you're building up a great platform which would be worth a tremendous amount of money in the future.
Yeah. No, you know what? I mean, yeah,
Me
it's
like you.
you're really speaking my intuition right now. I'm going to tell you that much.
Yeah,
Brian.
me like you. And you got your CEO in place. You got your CTO in place.
Yes. CTO, we're in the works. I'm not sure, exactly what direction we're supposed to be taking there.
You don't have to get it now.
Right.
You just have to get it by your Series A. So
Yeah.
what will happen is investors, you kind of have a choice in this game. Choice A is we can follow like the trodden Silicon Valley route, which is like a couple of, blonde-haired boys who went to Harvard, whose mommy and daddy happen to be related to the right people. You get your CTO, it's all in place, yada, 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 and then you end up with whatever you end up with, right? Choice number 2 is the beast choice. This is the Jenny Chang choice,
like that.
right? The beast choice is, I'm going to build this sucker. I'm going to get so many folks on board and using it that there's going to be so much FOMO within the investor community that they're not going to be necessarily worried about the fact of whether I have a co-founder that I've given equity to within this position or whether I have an amazing team that are helping me grow.
Right.
Because the amazing team is what will take us to this level.
Exactly.
As long as I promise that by the time I get to Series A, we will have a CTO in place.
Right.
Which you will.
Yes.
So wouldn't even worry desperately about that. Who's your COO? Is it Phil?
It's not. It's actually, his name is Thad Hoffmaster.
Okay. That's a great name, though.
He is so powerful.
Thad Hoffmaster, are you kidding me?
He's so powerful.
Yeah, of
Brian.
course he is.
I mean, he's one of the most intelligent men I've ever met. I mean, he is intuitive.
It's like Thor. It's like somebody's like a Thad Hoffmeister. When somebody's folks calls them Thad Hoffmeister, this guy's going to be a beast.
Oh no, he makes me feel so confident, and more so because he's such a fan. He loves Vowlá,
and he's 100% in.
He's 100% in.
Okay, excellent.
100%.
And what's his skill set? What's the thing that makes him vital to the team?
Oh my gosh. Well, for one, I feel like when I was looking for a COO, I think one of the things that I was looking for most was finding my counterparts, recognizing who I am as a CEO and finding the opposite of my skill set. And I think what Thad really brings to the table is, he's so knowledgeable in everything you can possibly imagine. And as a COO, in any department of, I mean, in any executive running operations, as a whole, you have to wear so many hats. And it doesn't mean you have to, direct every hat, but you definitely have to at least know, right, the details of marketing. You have to know the details of technology. You have to know the details of working with people, motivating people.
Because you're running the day-to-day operations.
Exactly. So Thad is, I like to kind of say this, and I said this. I told him this during our first phone interview. I remember saying, I was like, Thad, listen, I'm in a family, in a household, I'm the absent father. I'm like the absent father that, sets sail and finds the opportunities and brings home the steak and, comes home every maybe 3 days and, the kids love him and the kids are so happy that dad's home and, they want to hear all the stories and they want to get all excited.
Your mom.
But yeah, but I told that, I said, and that's who I've recognized of myself to be as a CEO, really kind of going out there, fishing for the opportunities, bringing home the steak, right? And I told him, I was like, and I'm looking for my nurturer. I'm looking for someone that is the neck, in the family, is knows exactly where the diapers are, exactly, what time the kids are supposed to go to sleep.
It's the logistical side, right?
Totally.
It's to make sure that every single day, and I actually really like what you said at the start, which is I wanted to skill gap the areas where I knew that I couldn't provide that in the thing, because that's where the business falls through.
Correct.
So I could talk to you all friggin' day, which is why this podcast has gone on longer than normal, because you're the Jenny Chang, and because the Jenny Chang Show is launching the greatest app that we've seen for a long time. So I believed in when I say, because I believe in you is actually cheap. When I first met you, I knew you were an executor. When I saw you work the event in here, I knew you were an executor. There is no doubt in my mind that you were going to execute, learn, adapt, and execute again. And you're going to get your investment, which is going to come through. If I can contribute and be a part of it, then I always want to have that conversation with you because you're awesome. If I can help you find other investors, I want to help you do that as well. There's no doubt in my mind this thing's going to make money. And then you're going to go through and you're going to build it all the way through. Forget stopping at Series A. This thing is going to become a multi-$100 million company. And everywhere in the world is going to know about Vowlá.
Thank
you.
You
Like it? So I want to finish
Brian.
with two things.
Okay.
Number one, give your contact details to everyone, please. Email address and website.
Okay.
And number two, speaking to all other founders out there, I want one piece of huge advice about what they should do to make sure that they have a successful journey in entrepreneurship.
Okay.
From everything you've learned.
Okay. So I'm going to start with the advice to the founders.
Okay.
If that's okay. The biggest advice is find the right people. Find the right people. It doesn't matter. That's, in the end of the day, that's the key. I think as an entrepreneur, we have these goggles, right, where we want to see what we see in ourselves and other people.
Hello.
Right?
Yo.
And we really want.
I feel like I'm in confession right now.
Right? And we're creators of other creators, Brian. I think you can really resonate with that in the sense where, as a creator, you want to create other people and other creators that have the potential to live the passion that they seek. And it gets really hard to differentiate, the dreamers and the creators. But there's a huge difference, right? I always like to say dreamers see it. They really see what they want to bring to life, and creators see it just as much, but they're capable of doing, the smallest to the largest things, the commitment, the values, everything that they're capable of doing in their action is what manifests this creation. And it's that creator in us to see it in others. And my biggest challenge in my journey is just taking a chance over and over again, perpetually. And not being discouraged, not having a guard. It's like being heartbroken 1,000 times when you're in the world of, starting a business. but you just can't get guarded, and you got to keep seeing, the potential in others. And when you find them, you invest in them. You invest in them in every way you can, in knowledge first. At the end of the day, if you can't provide the world for them, then at least give them something to change the world with knowledge. And
I love that. So find the
Yeah.
most perfect team that you possibly can.
That's it.
Excellent way to finish. And
That's it.
contact details?
So for the contact with Vowlá specifically,
Mm-hmm.
you can contact us at Jenny Chang, so that's Jenny, Chang, Chang, at vowlaapp.com.
Which is VOWLA.com.
Correct. And then it's actually dash and then app.com, and then the website's exactly the same. So
Awesome.
Vowlá app.
Jenny, you're awesome.
Thank you so
We
much.
love you. You
I
know
love
that.
you.
You're going to be the best. And we're going to be there with you all the way.
Thank you, Brian. Thank you so much for having me here. This has been amazing. So
And that's a wrap.
I love it.
Thanks for joining us. If you love the podcast, please empower your circle by sharing these stories. The Art of Startup War is brought to you by Expert Dojo. And remember, we invest in startups, $50,000 checks. Make sure you apply on our site if you are one of those great entrepreneurs looking to bring your company to the next level. As far as the Art of Startup War is concerned, we are back every single Tuesday at 10 a.m. So remember, check out the new episodes. If you want to find out what the investors think, check out season 1 or 2. But make sure you join us every single week.